all three, if one hit market today, would probably be worth $50 million or more. Even if PSA 9s are demanding millions and millions and millions of dollars of that 1952 top Mickey Mantle. But this story is not exclusive to 1952. In fact, many of the most valuable cards throughout history started not valuable. That was the case in 1986 clear. And the Michael Jordan rookie cards, all of those great rookie cards in 1986 clear. When that set first came out, it was printed heavily and it was distributed widely to sports card sellers throughout the whole country. But most didn't sell it. People complained that these boxes were not moving, they sat on shelves, and many sent them back to Clear, asking for refunds because they couldn't sell them at all. Today, of course, high-grade 1986 Clear, and especially the Michael Jordan card, is worth an absolute ton of money. 1984 Star Basketball. This one's really interesting because this one actually didn't catch on in popularity until the last couple of years. So if I was doing this video 3 or 4 years ago trying to predict what sets were being completely overlooked at that point in time but could become extremely valuable in the years to come, the correct answer a few years ago would have been 1984 Star Basketball. Because a few years ago, those cards were completely overlooked, but today they are worth an absolute ton of money, in part because PSA started grading those cards in 2022. And PSA started grading them again, I should say. They took many years off of grading those cards because of concerns around counterfeits and duplicate versions of the cards being reprinted years later. Once PSA was kind of comfortable that they could detect all of that, then they started grading them again, and that ushered in a lot more attention to Star Basketball. And a lot of people now saying that 1984 Star Michael Jordan card is his true rookie card, and it is a card that in high grade is now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's a card that was completely overlooked 5 years ago. And of course, throughout history, we've seen this happen a bunch of times. The T206 Honest Wagner card, not valuable for many years, of course now considered to be one of the most, if not the most iconic sports cards of all time. Even precious metal gems, the 1997 Metal Universe Precious Metal Gems cards that are considered the pinnacle of 1990s parallels. They're the cards that all of the 90s basketball card collectors now seek after. They're considered a crown jewel. When they came out in 1997, many thought they were an over-designed gimmick. They were not that valuable or sought after when they came out. Today, those precious metal gems from 1997 are selling in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Unbelievable. And of course, the same could be said for first edition Pokemon cards from 1999, or the first series of Garbage Pail Kids cards from 1995, or the original Magic the Gathering cards from 1993, or Star Wars action figures from 1997, or sealed Nintendo games from the 1980s, or even sports tickets and stubs from sporting events from many decades ago, with very few people ever thought about holding on to their tickets or stubs. And now, especially for the big sporting events of yesteryear, those are extremely sought after, valuable collectors. All of these things became valuable later because of a low surviving population, either because they were completely ignored, used and destroyed when they first came out, or because they were short printed and there just weren't very many that came out to begin with. And over time, the cultural significance of all of the items I just talked about have increased. And also, not a lot of those items have survived in any type of condition, high condition, and now there's a lot more market attention on all of those items. There was no market attention on those items when they first came out. For those reasons, all of those examples that I just gave have gone from being worth almost nothing when they first came out in the market to now today being extremely valuable. So, what cards today are we overlooking? Because history is bound to repeat itself. And there is bound to be some cards today that people are not paying a lot of attention to, that don't have much demand, and that maybe there's not much supply of. That 20, 30, 50 years from now, we're all going to be looking at each other going, I can't believe I missed that. Or I can't believe I didn't have more of that. Because those gems that were readily available at low prices today may be very expensive down the road. There are some cards out there today that are going to fit that qualification. Nobody knows what they are, myself included. All we can do is guess. So let's guess. I've got some guesses for you to go over. And part of my interest in this topic has come about recently because we've seen a huge explosion in the price of Kaboom cards. If you've been watching any of the online auctions, you've seen, particularly basketball, things like the 2018 Kobe Bryant Kaboom or the first year 2013 Kaboom. Those cards have gone nuclear in the market this year. A lot of those Kaboom cards are up 3x, 4x, 5x from where they were at the beginning of this year. Why is this happening? Well, there's a lot of people right now that I think are trying to predict what the next precious metal gems card is, or the next star basketball card is, that's going to really take off in the market. And people are thinking, they're trying to think a few decades out, and they're trying to say, okay, 20 years from now, when people are thinking back about cards from 2010 to 2020s, what are the cards that people are going to revere then? Because a lot of people today are concerned about the huge amount of overprinting. There's so many different cards, and so many different parallels, and so many different sets, so many different inserts, that there's so much from today's era that won't be valuable in 20 years because there's just so much of it. But there will be stuff from today's era that will be valuable. There absolutely will be some things that hold up and become a lot more valuable over the long run. So a lot of people are guessing specifics. A lot of people look at this era and say, it's the Kaboom. That's what will be the iconic insert of the era that will be remembered 30 years from now. And I say, not so fast, my friend. And the only reason why I say that is because everybody is saying that right now. And I said this on Twitter a few days ago. Somebody was posting, it was one of a zillion posts on Twitter where someone was posting a record price of the Kaboom card, and they had commented, it's this generation's precious metal gems. And I reposted it with a comment saying, I'm not sure Kabooms are actually going to be this generation's precious metal gems because so many people are saying they are this generation's precious metal gems. I feel like there might be something else that's hidden, that is, unknown right now, or known but not paid much attention to right now, that actually will become what is more sought after and valuable down the road. So I'm not convinced it's Kabooms, but there's a lot of people that are convinced it's Kabooms. And of course, I love Kabooms. They are an iconic insert. I do think they will have value down the road without a doubt. I just think they're also very heated right now. So I don't know, are they going to be super much more valuable down the road? They could be, or maybe not, because there's so much hype placed upon them right now. Now there are a lot